Amanda.
I'm Ben.
We're AutoSave. Welcome to our channel.
Today we're watching Vinland Saga Season 1, Episode 14. Last episode might have been one of my favorite episodes of the series. I loved it. It felt like a little bit of a change of pace, and I just loved learning a little bit more about Askeladd and where he's come from and what that means for him going forward. What his feelings are, specifically regarding the Danes.
What is this relationship with Canute and Thorfinn going to be going forward? This fun dynamic.
I have to be cautious,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I loved it. I loved last episode. I don't know if we're going to be, on the road continuing having people debate whether they should throw rocks and stuff at us. But yeah.
Well, things are definitely changing with Canute speaking here and everyone is hearing it.
Yeah.
So the feelings toward Canute might change for the group. I'm still wondering, action-wise, you were like, what are we going to be doing? Just traveling? Is this dynamic with Thorfinn really just going to be something that is built, but then later on we get something of Thorfinn defending Canute in like a battle, or is that something we'd go right into?
Interesting. I think that we could potentially have a little bit of in-talking in the next few episodes in terms of Askeladd's crew. Like, we had a decent amount of Bjorn screen time last episode, just saying, and acknowledging what a mystery in a lot of aspects of Askeladd's life, he is to him. And I wonder what that's going to amount to with Askeladd's hate of the Danes.
You know what it could start to breed? Like, if someone like Bjorn's like, yeah, he's a mystery to me, and Askeladd starts doing things or acting in ways that are peculiar for him, or mistrust or confusion starts to be bred within this group of people.
I mean, last episode we literally, you know why they are doing what I'm saying? It's because they trust me, and that could be, groundwork for
well, they always
to
trust
come.
you.
Yeah. Nervous, excited, happy. We're still not going to watch the intro or outro.
Yeah.
I just don't want any spoilers.
No spoilers.
Ready?
Yes.
Sweet. Are we watching the right episode?
We're watching the right episode.
It reminds me of the family that took care of Thorfinn. Does this intro song elicit more of like a fighting, getting ready for war response than the last intro?
The first intro, I feel like, had a much more like exploration, dynamic, emotional outcry feeling. This is much more like we're building up,
Yeah.
like we're coming up. It's a much more positive feeling.
I feel like edginess, like.
Well, Thorfinn is like super edgy.
Yeah. This is the preacher, right?
The priest.
Whoa. I believe it.
I thought they were just best friends.
They're both. Depends on how much.
They might just be really good friends.
Trying to understand his words from last episode. Huh.
So Booze loves me.
こいつわけわからん。古株の相手じゃ今でも話に上る。昔俺らがフェローで船を襲った時のことだ。
Hmm.
その船には戦士が一人乗っててな。 これがもうめっぽう強い。
Yes.
俺らは総出でかかったんだが、そいつ一人に30人中盤に素手で叩き伏せられた。
Without killing a single one.
つか選手としての礼儀ってもんが。
そのもの他に何かしましたか？名は何と言いますか？
やっぱわけわからんちん同士で惹かれるものがある。
Interesting.
本当の戦士に
Oh,
剣はいらない
that's biblical.
とかなんとか。何坊主。
Did they not remember that he's Thorfinn's dad? Like, when they're telling the story, they're like, we don't remember who he was.
のは当たりか愛か。
戦士、本当の剣は必要ない。
It's like inspiration.
I love the tone.
私は船乗りですよ。海ならともかく丘の天気なんぞ。
This is very true.
冬の入りっぱなにこんなに積もることを予想しろって方が無茶ですよ。
Really, Asklad.
だ言うとらん。
He had a reaction. He was like, let's go this way.
雪を漕いで進むんなら戦利品は捨てねばなりません。手下どもは納得しないでしょう。
アシェラット、準備万端だ。いけるぜ。
月の落ちとるときは何をやっても裏目に出るぞ。ラグナルだ。
Luck not being on his side.
孫友の襲撃、略奪は我らノルド人の伝統でしょう。
Oh,
No! What was that girl's name? Anne?
yeah.
Oh.
私たちの日ごとの糧を今日もお与えください。私たちが罪人を許すように、私たちの罪をお許しください。悪よりお救いください。限りなくあなたのものです。
That is a very full table.
アーメン。
Let them eat.
お父ちゃん、お祈りしないとどうなるの？
そりゃお
Oh
前
god. Oh no!
地
Oh
獄に落ちるんだ。
そうだ。
Why do they have to do this?
no!
うようよいる怖いところだぞ。お祈りする良い子は天国へ行ける。よく覚えておきなさい。
どうして神様は急にこの世をお裁きになろうとするの？
大昔から決められてたんだ。イエス様が復活なさってから1000年後、
Oh.
20年後。
So they're like in preparation for this. They're all.
みんな地獄行きだ。
おしっこ。
What is she keeping in the tree?
Yeah.
She has like a secret
know.
in the tree.
どうしようどうしよう。悪魔怖いよ。いくらするんだろうこの指輪。今からでもお金払ったら
Did she?
神様は許してくれるかしら。
Did she steal it? Yeah.
Oh no! She's gonna think she's going to hell when they kill her. Oh. Mm.
No.
The hands are so
お金も
detailed.
ない
I
のに
love it.
市場見物
Don't
なんか
die.
するんじゃなかった。私みたいな悪い子はきっと裁きの日に地獄へ落ちる。
Ah.
きっと家族の中で私だけ。
They're really twisting the
I'm-
knife.
They're really hurting me right now. Is she gonna survive because she's not in the house? No, there's no way. No, she's.
ちゃんと良い子にしてないと神様が罰。チーズ。晩ご飯拝見。皆さん逃げてください。この村は狙われて。あったけ生き返るわ。なんだここんちはガキが多いな。マジひでえもん食ってんなおい。
Why'd you drop it on the ground, Bjorn?
なんなのあなた。
Oh no!
食べ物を粗末にして間違えた。
おさほら食い物全部出せ。殺すぞ。酒屋2人で一人前として50人ってことは冬越しの食料も50人分か。
They're taking all the food they have to last the winter.
一度だけ許す。だが次邪魔をすれば
The score of this
の場で
episode.
殺す。 らの言葉の通じる者はおらんか。食べるものを半分、せめて半分残してくれないか。赤ん坊もおるんだ。どうか。大丈夫。あんた方のことは考えてあるよ。冬越しの心配はしなくていい。
Because you'll be dead or some shit.
本
Oh.
当に本当にか。来年も再来年ももう冬越しの心配はいらん。あんた方を苦悩から解放してやろう。一人でも脱走されたら敵地の真ん中でもたついてることをチクられる。そいつはいただけね。どうだ、穴は掘れたか。
おお、詰めれば62に入るぜ。
王子殿下の御ためにはこれが最善
This
で
is
す
what's
よ。
best for them.
他に
Is
質
he
問のあ
wanting
る
the
方は
prince to speak up? You know, like,
いないね。
is he wanting that?
そんじゃやろうども。
Even if one person gets out.
やれ。
A true warrior doesn't need a sword, right?
And there's footprints to be able to track her if they figure it out.
Wow.
Kami-sama, 見ていらっしゃいませ。父ちゃんや母ちゃん、じいちゃん、弟や妹はそちらに着きましたか。やっぱり私のことはお召しにならないのですね。そうよね。だって私ドキドキしてるんだもの。あんなにもあなたの罰を恐れない人たちがいるなんて。私は今ドキドキしてるの。
The shadows of those trees. Okay, that was Vinland Saga Season 1, Episode 14. Elated. Adjective. Ecstatically happy. After the concert, I felt elated. Now, I knew what the word elated meant,
Yes.
but it wasn't the word I was expecting to hear.
Which is why you get that kind of double take. Or is this a mistranslation?
It's like when you're
Is this
driving,
the correct word choice.
it's like you're driving the same route to wherever you're going, and you're just kind of like in your head about it. And you're like, wait, did I forget to take an exit? Like, am I supposed to still be on this road? Kind of like doubt, but at the same time, okay, I think that it arose not because of like utter surprise in character, but in the theme of the episode. I like had imagined it was going to go down the road of her saying something along the lines of, since I stole this thing, my family gets to be in heaven and I have to remain living on the hell on earth because of this action.
Mm-hmm.
And her emotion tied to that being something of like regret and feeling like she fucked up, right? That is not at all the direction that it went. And her, I guess, like, I don't know, like feeling like less alone for knowing that there are people who feel pleasures in something that is not, you know,
Who don't fear God's wrath.
Yeah.
They
It's
don't
interesting.
Fear hell. They act on what they want to act on and on impulse. And I guess that if you... it is a good feeling to feel that you aren't alone.
Okay, here's a
If
question.
that's what.
So
That's where my mind is going.
is the devil's existence synonymous with God's wrath? Is being punished by hell and the devil the direct causation of what God's wrath is? Because you're punishing people who don't follow like what God is suggesting the way of living to be.
Possibly, but it could also be a true sign to a believer that, or someone who is on the fence, that if there is literal hell on earth, then there is a place of like opposite,
Yeah.
as great as a heaven would be, where the good people can go. And if anything, that would make you feel good and comforted to feel like you have some confirmation that there is something, a place for good people, unlike yourself, that your family would have gone to.
Yeah. I bring it up though because she had said like Anne very specifically, like that she was afraid of the devil, right? And if you were to make that connection between God's wrath being the devil and like what his actions are, then it could be somewhat reassuring to know that there are those out there who aren't even scared of the devil, you know, and like that being an interpretation of God's wrath.
It could be somewhat freeing to witness people not living in some like virtue confines and kind of living by their own earthly desires.
Yeah.
That could be something that could feel in a freeing elation. I could understand feeling like untethered. I can act and be whoever I want to be and not guilt myself so much, maybe, because there's people worse than me out there that literally just killed a bunch of people. I stole this ring, they killed a bunch of people.
Man, this is by far the episode that I've written the least amount of things down in my notebook. I only wrote 2 things down, and they were very early on in the episode because I was just taken aback. Like I was so immersed in it, and I like didn't have much to say for most of it because I was so, I don't know. Like I thought that the direction of this episode was so compelling, and like to focus on this character Anne or Annie, I think Anne. I thought it was a really interesting choice, and like I'm really like, I don't know, I'm dumbfounded by it.
The father,
cool.
The father brought up to live by the 10 Commandments, and I wouldn't be surprised if the 10 Commandments were themes throughout this episode, like coveting your neighbor's goods, like things like that.
Yeah.
Obviously, you know, stealing all of their food, just different commandments I could see possibly being shown in different ways in this episode, with that being brought up by the father of the family, not the priest. I mean, this episode, it made us even think it was possibly the wrong episode by how it started. We were like, what is the world we were just dropped into?
Yeah.
What's happening? Who is this girl? And for a split second there, I had this hope that if Canute said something after Askeladd said the line, "This is for the prince's good," that maybe that would change the trajectory of what was about to happen. If Canute was like, "Stop doing things that you think are for my good, like let me make opinions for myself," maybe things would have been different. But I honestly, with the amount of food, the logic, the stupid, mean, but I understand his logic that Askeladd had of like, well, I can't feed 104 men and these like 50 villagers with what 50 villagers had to survive a winter. Like, yes, logically that makes sense. Not everyone's gonna eat for the winter. I understand the math, you know? But I was just hoping, especially by that line, because I almost felt like it was like a little nudge to Canute. Like, this is for the prince.
Well, here's the deal. In any other anime, it might have been, but this is very, like, it's interesting when they're picking and choosing to lean into the realism that is war and what happens in these cases, because, like, especially how Askeladd's looking at the situation, you have these men that are...
that he's in charge of.
Yeah, and are, above all else, necessary to keep with him in order to, in in other people's point of views, like protect the heir to like this very important person, and within such there's a hierarchy, and when you need to make these decisions, I imagine for people like Askeladd make themselves, because okay, there's not much like even thought that needs to go into it. We need to keep these people alive so that we can keep moving on, so that it gets not much to think about.
And on the other side, for why to kill all of these villagers, is Askeladd has a point with like their suffering. If he didn't do this, he would be leaving all of these people without food through a very harsh winter.
Yeah.
There would be prolonged suffering on their end. But, like, where's the nearest village? Other village? I don't know, but they might not have enough food for these villagers either. But it's just very interesting logic on Askeladd's end.
So, do you think that... I wanted to try to make, like a point to think about Askeladd and saying that he hates the Danes and trying to interpret that into... like what his actions are this episode. But like at the end of the day, Askeladd didn't know that Anne was running away, so that Askeladd doing all of these actions, like they would only be seen or remembered from anybody outside of their group as like momentary before death, you know? So like, do you think that in the Christians' minds, it's like, oh, this great evil empowered by the devil is killing me right now, and like, and Askeladd is like leaning into that? Like, how much of, oh, I'm going to kill you right now, is it a mercy kill to like in Askeladd's mind? Because the way that they've written his character, I feel so like ill-equipped and not confident to be able to answer like for what Askeladd's thinking.
When he says that he hates the Danes, part of me feels like he's talking about that he hates the part of himself that is a Dane. And so what that would then say is that he's aware that there's a part of him that acts in the ways that these Danes do.
Yeah.
Unapologetically.
Yeah.
But that he hates that part of himself. But it is there. And he'll do it.
Okay.
That is just like a possible unpacking of him and his hatred toward the Danes, but also why he still acts in a certain way. It could be because he, with that line, is calling attention to something that he dislikes about himself, but he still does because it's part of who he is.
Yeah. Man, I thought the focus on the priest in the beginning of the episode was really important, especially because later on in the episode he was the one yelling to try to warn the other villagers. And I thought, like, what does it mean that we got this reaction from Thor's words and disposition the same episode that everything else happened? Like, what does that mean for us?
Maybe it's just showing us another line in the sand, like re-putting it there between Askeladd and Thor's, and how they would be as leaders of men.
Yeah.
Because especially with the last couple episodes, we've had such a heavy showing of Askeladd still thinking about Thor's, and maybe even blurring that line a little bit more of like them coming together in terms of like Askeladd maybe understanding Thor's, thinking of him so highly that he thinks of him in times of like, how do I lead my men and what am I doing with my life kind of stuff. But I think what this episode is doing here is showing us there is a line. Like, that they are totally separate. Don't try to blur them and cross over too much in terms of like Askeladd being this great father figure for Thorfinn that's going to raise him right, you know?
Yeah, and like, so I can easily like get into the headspace of thinking how Thor's is described and what he said would be something that somebody, a follower of Christianity or a priest, would be able to get behind. But I wonder if any of it pertains to that idea of love. Like, in the priest's reaction to these words, how he was very, like, wide-eyed in their face, I wonder if the priest would then be exhibiting a love and of interest in somebody who's able to have these qualities like Thor's, or if he's able to tell through Thor's apparent actions and words that he was able to achieve that way of enlightenment because he was able to experience what love is. Because to a certain degree, we witnessed ourselves the change between previous Thors and previously, like Thor's before he had his kids, and then Thor's afterwards, and how that changed him as a man, as an individual. And I wonder if that sense of like love and family, and why he even asked Askeladd to begin with if he had any family, if that's what changes the type of person, like that experience of love.
The priest seems to be, even in what we get from him in the beginning, I would believe that idea of praying and love, that he was probably and has been searching for what he should be doing, how he should be showing his love, what is the love that he's receiving, is it there, possibly just really searching and praying for a sign, inspiration, how can he best, in the position he's in, show his love back, the reciprocation of the love that he's feeling from his god.
Yeah. And
it could be that Thor's words, when he hears them and hears the action of Thor's, and hears this idea of this man that knocked down 30 men, and after the battle you find out none of them are dead, and then he uttered the words of that a true warrior doesn't need a sword, and that idea that a man like that can still live on in people's stories and words, and they remember the theme, the important message that he had to say. These men don't even remember that he was Thorfinn's dad when they're telling this story, but they remember the words, that like important message. And so the priest, he's like, this is like sign, inspiration, this is the path that I need to go down, is that I need to be a warrior that doesn't need a sword. And then, and it makes an impact, because look at these Danish men that I think down on, and they are remembering these words and this valiant man that they fought. They remember him. He lives on in their memories. He made an impact.
I think it's really interesting that we're given this and their recollection of Thor's and what he said, when just 2 episodes ago we were given the fact that Askeladd remembers it. We didn't see the subtitles on the screen, but I'm almost certain that the flashback of Thor's that Askeladd had was the same frame as when he said, a true warrior doesn't need a sword. And like what that means for Askeladd to remember, I want to like put in a separate category than what it means for the brothers to remember, but I can't describe or answer why yet. Like, cause I don't know.
Askeladd's in a position where I have to say that some of the things he did or said in this episode or thought were logical to his position of having to be the leader of 104 men and the prince. That I can't... Thor's acted individually while protecting a few people. He wasn't acting as a leader in the scenario. And it does make me wonder, what would the best person ever do in this position if they were a leader of a group of people and they came into this village and this village only has food for 50 people to survive the winter? What would you do?
So I think a lot of that depends on who those 100 and whatever men are. Because earlier in the episode, we got the idea that they could turn back and leave what they had or continue forward.
Oh,
right?
Yeah, they had their spoils of war, all of the riches.
And what's directly in front of them is something that is almost assured to be at least a warm place for the night and a meal for them then currently.
Because he said we can't stay out in the open.
Yeah. And who are you around, right? Who are your soldiers that are trying to be in charge of defending Canute? Who are the people that are all entrusting of Askeladd? What do they do if Askeladd starts being like, nah, change everything that you're used to? This is a village right in front of you that 10 times out of 10 previously, you would have taken easily and, like, been able to rejoice in
Or
those
if he
spoils.
said
Like,
to leave the spoils earlier.
yeah.
Like, he's trying to
Exactly.
keep the trust of the people that he
Maybe.
is leading.
But I'm just, like,
Possibly.
to be in that position, though, whoever it was, like, you'd have to realize that the decisions that you make are going to directly influence the morale and thought behind the people who you are hoping to protect you and die for you.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like I don't want to give Askeladd a narrative that hasn't been put on him, like, oh, he's just doing this to, like, you know, but I'm it makes you wonder.
There's also an idea that out of 104 men, how do you know for sure that once one of them starts to trust you a little less, if you chose to not do what Askeladd did here, wouldn't then take it upon themselves to act in a bad way?
Yeah.
So he kind of has this spell over a giant number of strong and equipped with weapons men.
Yeah.
And that is, like, you have to play a little dance there, like, because they're all individuals that can make their own decisions for themselves. The only reason they're following Askeladd is because of respect and trust, and they think he's a good leader. The split second that they doubt that or they don't feel it anymore, you don't have 104 men on your side anymore.
Yeah, you're right.
So it's a tough position.
Now, did Gratianus stay behind with his village?
I think he probably just walked them to the next territory.
Gotcha. Okay. Just making sure. Because I didn't think I saw him in the carriage at the end of last episode, but God, I don't. So they gave us the line of dialogue, like, okay, we can't let anybody leave because then they could tell the enemy where we are exactly. But then the language that Anne used at the end of the episode, as well as how she looked at the end of the episode, like, on one hand, I'd be like, oh, a survivor. Mm-hmm. What I'm used to in anime, because they literally just gave a precursor to it, is that they would give the enemy, like, a precise location,
exactly.
you know? But because of the nature of how they wrote Anne's character, I am fucking, again, another thing in this, like, series that I just have no idea what to expect from it, and I love it. It's pretty refreshing.
I think my thought for that same, like, expectation and how it was subverted was that when she woke back up and it was daytime, I expected there to be another villager from another village, like, oh, look, there's a girl in the snow, let's help her up, because I've seen things like that before in media, and I expected that. I expected her to wake up, make a choice, and or the choice be made for her by a person coming upon her, that the location of Askeladd and his group were told to other people.
Yep.
But what good would that really do? It's really snowy, it's really thick snow, it's very cold. Where is the nearest group of people who could actually fight 104 men? What good could this girl, if she did choose to go tell someone, actually do?
Well, I mean, that location could be transmitted back to somebody like Thorkel, where they could travel, because now they know exactly where Askeladd and the gang are, you know?
That's true. And honestly, another thing we could be thinking of is not just their location, but I think you kind of touched upon this earlier, is that maybe the location and being found isn't necessarily the worry, but that the actions of Askeladd and his group would reflect on, like, would be told and would reflect on themselves with the prince.
Like, what do you think Gratianus would be thinking right now? You know, like...
probably unhappy.
Maybe.
I mean, the only reason that, I think his name was
they're
Asair,
civilians, right?
Asair, I think, was the other leader. The only reason that they let Askeladd walk through their territory was because he said, I hate the Danes, I hate how they act, where they're bloodthirsty kind of.
It's not the only reason, though. It's like that promise that this is like the end goal, right? That Askeladd won't let one of them touch foot in this land and destroy it. Mm-hmm. And then you have to, like, depending on who the person is, weigh your options. Like, yeah, it's
some
it's
people
fucked
dead
up
now, but
in
the future, no people dead.
I don't know. It's complex, man. I thought this episode was beautifully done. I thought the animation was great, and I loved the way that they animated the snow. I thought that it really gave me like a feeling of like I was like, I felt tight. Like in the sense of like I felt like it did a really good job like giving me the atmosphere of like a blizzard and feeling like cold and like enclosed.
The landscape details, the sky details, the moon, the nature around them that almost is like creating this snow globe that they are contained in, because obviously the snow, the landscape, they're almost in their own little world here, possibly. Like, where even is the nearest civilization other than this village? Who knows? And it really gives that effect of this very empty, very silent environment that is around them. And it was all beautiful, like all of the like landscape visuals.
I really liked the shadows from like the time lapse of the sun rising while Anne was still asleep and she was waking up. I loved like the pacing of this episode. It was great.
I liked the start of it. I liked being like, wait, what have I been dropped into? What's happening? Am I on the wrong episode? Like, that really, what it did was it broke me out of my usual, okay, I'm sitting down to watch Vinland Saga, and it gave me something like a new and different feeling of like, okay, what am I watching now?
Yeah. But like specifically, like even before, it's not as simple as, oh, we started out the episode with Anne and then we got like it went from a flash forward of the axe being swung, then into Anne, then into the priest with the Thor's observation.
There were words on the screen too, and that was like a big thing to me.
I thought it was really, really well done. And same with last episode. It just feels like it's continuously ramping up and getting better and better. I love it.
This was hard to watch.
But I love it. I could watch it again and again.
Okay.
You good?
Yeah.
Thank you guys so much for watching this video. Please like, comment, and subscribe. And we hope to see you next time.